Welcome your hosts, Caddy, Frink, and Erin Fitzgerald, as they lead discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Well, here we are at the table again doing Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Wow, who do I have across the table from me?
Well, I'm Erin. I'm here.
Wow.
Usually.
Hi, Erin. And who is at the other side of the table?
And I'm Monique.
Monique, who are you?
My name is Monique Bourgeois. I'm the Chief Community Relations Officer with Nuway Alliance.
How exciting.
It is pretty exciting.
We got an amazing guest here.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you also to some special donors, including the Patrick and Amy Butler Family Foundation, Otto Bremer Trust, the Sauer Family Foundation, the Hardenberg Foundation, and of course, all of you other donors out there. We appreciate you and would not be here without you. So thank you. And to start off the morning, Miss Caddy, tell me what's right with you.
Whew, what's right with me? What's right with me? So lovely days we have had. And, with all the rain that we had in the beginning of the season, I am just so excited to see sun, but not super hot, just kind of like great outdoor weather. So really grateful for that, as well as my cats are really entertaining me a lot lately. They are just so exciting because I have 3 of them and they are just crazy pants. Crazy pants.
And you love that.
What is right with you, Miss Erin?
Oh, so many things are right. First of all, this is our 25th show, so that's really exciting.
Is it really?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Here, let's do the drum roll on the table. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yay. But also, I'm just really grateful for adventures, big and little. I've got big adventures coming along, but yesterday I had a little adventure with a girlfriend. We like to try and chase the full moon. And normally we go somewhere where there's less city lights.
Wow.
But we stayed in the city and the moon was glorious. But we always have like funny, weird little things happen.
Ooh,
and
us.
we did, just like, pulling into parking lots and then other cars pulling in and just like having their headlights on us and just staring like, what are you guys doing over there? And just making us feel awkward. Like we're just admiring the beautiful moon. Do we need to leave from the space? And that happened to us twice. And then another time I went into a parking lot and all of a sudden it didn't actually happen like this, but it felt like there was 6 semis that were suddenly like surrounding us, but really they were just moving. And I was just like, this is weird. It was just a full moon thing. It was a fun night. So that's what's right with me. How about you, Monique? What's right with you?
Well, first of all, I love that question, and I appreciate being asked that. I think what comes to mind immediately is just having this opportunity to be here with you 2 lovely people. This is near and dear to my heart, and so to be able to talk about something I'm super passionate about and have been for a long time is just a really big honor and really keeps me grounded for my why. Why do I continue to be passionate about supporting people in accessing recovery? And so, and I also could go with, I love the weather. It's been so wonderful. And the other thing is I'm happy, healthy, and doing well in life. So that's what's right with me today.
That's amazing. I love the fact that you brought up your why. As the Recovery Coach Academy kind of lead trainer, it's one of the key things that we talk about, like kind of on the tippy toe around it on the first day, but then we really get into it on the second day. And when we talk about motivational conversation, and it is a life-changing moment when people think about why they want to help people in the recovery community. So thank you for bringing that up. It's an awesome reminder as to why we're sitting here.
Right. And where we find our space in that if we want to work in the community, because you are an ally to the recovery community.
Yes.
And so how did that come about?
Yeah. So, as you said, I'm an ally and I have many friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances that are in recovery and some that are still suffering from addiction. And I'm just really passionate about making sure individuals know that recovery is real, recovery is possible, and it's probable when we provide the resources, the tools, and the space for people to find what works for them and what makes their life better, healthier, and however that is defined for them. That's not for me to decide. And I really found that passion in the early 2000s. To be really honest, I was listening to Paul and Sheila Wellstone's
Mm.
eulogy at their
Ah,
funeral.
wow.
And there was a man who was eulogizing Sheila, and he was talking about all her work with domestic abuse survivors when she was in DC. And it really struck a chord with me that I was like, I want to do something in the field of addiction recovery that is truly going to change policies and impact people's lives so that people were not afraid to ask for help, seek help, and have the courage to put one foot in front of the other. And so at that point in time, I was working as a licensed alcohol and drug counselor doing direct service with adolescents. And I was like, I think it's time I go back to school and figure out how do I do that.
Hmm.
And here I am
A few years later.
a couple decades later, sitting with you fine folks.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about allies in our recovery community. And I mean, thank you for being part of the family in recovery because it's so important. I mean, all of us who are existing today, it's because we have allies. We have the people that understand us, but then we have the people that know us. And sometimes that's exactly who an ally is that they know who we are. Wow. Thank you for that.
Well, and I would say the thanks is also goes to the individual because in order to be a part of the miracle of recovery, someone has to let you be there
Mhm.
and let
Yeah.
you be a part of that.
Mhm.
And that is such an honor. And so important.
Mhm.
It's important to that individual, to that ally, and it's important for that individual seeking recovery as well. So I would say thank you back because I couldn't be there if it wasn't for the individuals doing that work.
Wow.
Yeah. Putting
And
our
we
own
do
work.
do the work, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all do the work. We're all at the table when we
Yes.
really need to be.
Yes.
And I love that statement. I've just been sort of redoing some training materials and I was pulling something out. It's like, we need to be at the table so we're not on the menu.
Yes.
You know, that's that big statement that some people go, what does that mean? And I'm like, we all got to be present.
Mhm.
Our allies, those who are struggle with substance use, so many of us who are in recovery, and those who are not in recovery,
Right.
that are really, really out there trying to figure it out. And it takes all of us.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, you also have your own ties to Minnesota Recovery Connection.
I do. So I worked for Minnesota Recovery Connection from late 2010 to early 2016. I was the volunteer training director. And so MRC is near and dear to my heart and always will be. And so it's been such a great opportunity to continue to work with MRC, even though I don't work for MRC, I still get to work with MRC and walk alongside MRC, and I love that opportunity as well. So
Yeah.
What did you do at MRC? What was your role at that
yeah,
time and place?
so thinking way back to 2010, 2011, 2013, we were a really small organization, 3 full-time employees, itty bitty. And we kind of did it all, right?
Yeah.
But I was mostly in charge of telephone recovery support, recovery coach academy, and then managing all the volunteers for all the opportunities that volunteers might have at MRC, whether it be doing advocacy or outreach or putting together training materials.
Yes,
I mean,
so-
all the things. Yes. And I loved it. And I made so many wonderful connections and relationships that I still get to be a part of today.
Wow. It's so interesting to hear about how small it was and how it's sort of grown and shrunk and grown and shrunk. And it's just really amazing. So when we come back from our break, I want to bring back Monique and we're going to just talk about where we've advanced from her beginning days with the relationship with Minnesota Recovery Connection to kind of where we are now and what does that look like? We'll be back. Redefining Recovery Revolution.
We've all seen the man at the liquor store begging for your change.
Welcome back. We are redefining recovery with Monique Bourgeois from Nuway Alliance. Monique, we were just discussing kind of your relationship with MRC and then how you transitioned over to Nuway Alliance and community partnerships. The fact that you still have connections with MRC is really great. So, do you want to just share some of that story?
Yeah. So as we talked about, I worked at MRC and then left MRC to join Nuway. At the time, it was just Nuway. The Alliance came later, and keeping with my passion of making sure that people have access to recovery, I was really interested in how we could collaborate with community organizations like Minnesota Recovery Connection. And the opportunity came up through presenting sponsorship for the Walk for Recovery. And I was like, absolutely, Nuway is going to do that because we have a really rich history of being a grassroots community-based organization, and I felt like that mission and that vision really aligned between the two organizations. And along with that, it allowed MRC to be able to connect with the people that might be in treatment at Nuway, but also for us to demonstrate to the greater community why it's important for organizations like ours, a treatment organization, to collaborate and partner with a recovery community organization, right? We're all on the same continuum. And it's just really important that we make sure individuals, communities, and professionals understand that it is a fluid continuum and that the resources can be shared, can be lifted up and supported.
And overlap sometimes.
Absolutely overlap. I think
They
most of
should.
the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's the way, I think that's the way people get better is that we were talking about this earlier, if people understand that it's not just one way, which sometimes can be the message, it's like, oh, you've got to go to treatment. And then you got to go do this. And then you got to go do this. Where in fact, they can all just sort of overlap together and you can have this really happy sort of marriage. So what's the story of Nuway Alliance? What is its vastness that it is now?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yes.
I think our origin story is really wonderful. And as I mentioned, it was a grassroots organization. So back in the early and mid 60s, there was a group of people who were members of the 2218 Alano Club who really had a vision of helping individuals. They were seeing people coming out of treatment at that time and realizing formalized treatment for alcoholism was pretty new, maybe like a decade old, and there wasn't very many. Hazelden, Wilmer State Hospital. And so they saw people coming out of those kind of primary treatment experiences and struggling to remain sober. And I'm being particular about my language because this would be the language that would have been used at that time.
Absolutely.
And they saw people struggling to maintain their sobriety and really saw that housing was a key barrier to that stability in sobriety. So maybe it was they were homeless, maybe it was they were living in a housing situation that was not supportive of their sobriety, whatever it might have been. And so they said, maybe we should do this thing called a halfway house, which was a super new concept in modern times. It was a super new concept. So they raised money by selling membership certificates. And that was enough money to put a down payment on a boarding house, which is 2 properties north of the 2218 Alano Club. And so it was already set up for communal living, which was convenient. They did some renovation. I mean, this board of directors filed for a nonprofit status, which was granted on May 10th, 1966. So that's really our birthday.
Wow.
And they renovated and got it ready and ran a halfway house for men. And it was successful. They were seeing some really good results that
Mm.
people with stabilized housing, lo and behold, tend to start to do better.
Imagine that.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah,
Yes.
give
And
somebody a bed and look at what they can do. They can become
yes,
more
yeah.
more happy.
If you have a safe place to lay your head at night, you can actually work on the things that are going to support your recovery.
Mm.
And so it was successful. And then in 1970, they opened up another halfway house. So the first one was called Nuway.
Mm.
Then when the second one came, Nuway became Nuway 1, and the second one became Nuway 2. So keep it simple.
Mhm.
And really Nuway operated as a halfway house for several decades. And then as things shifted in the industry and how we treat and in different things, Nuway had purchased 3R's Counseling Center, which was a long-standing outpatient in Northeast Minneapolis. Still there today. It's still one of our intensive outpatients. Fast forward to rate reform, and I want to go into that, but we at that time they kind of redesignated how we identify treatment in Minnesota, and so all of our halfway houses, well, the 2 halfway houses became medium intensity residential, which was still
Okay.
serving that individual that needed more time
Mhm.
to build their foundation in recovery.
Hmm.
So keeping with that original intention and mission about providing that place to stabilize, lay your head at night, be safe,
Mhm.
and be able to build that foundation and strengthen that foundation of recovery. Um, in 2014, we began the RISE model, which is recovery and supportive environments. And that's where we pair intensive outpatient with recovery resident support. Again, keeping with that vision that started back in the early 60s
Mm.
and that idea that still 50 years later,
Mhm.
we still have an issue of people coming out of treatment and not having a place to live or the stability that they need. And so we started implementing that and partnering with recovery residences in the community, offering clients a choice on where they're going to live
Mm.
in the community that they want to live in. And from there, we expanded
Mm.
across the state.
You certainly did.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we have locations in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Duluth, St. Cloud, and Mankato.
You
Awesome.
really did some major growing.
Yes.
But that's what people needed. They
And they
needed a
still,
space.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that they had that vision. They understood that that 30 days or 28 days in treatment, that's just not it. It's not removing that substance and just that's it. We need somewhere so we can get well.
Mhm.
So thank you to those founders for recognizing that.
Just sustaining that recovery idea and model and reinforcing how if you live a life that gives you the support you need, look at what can happen. Wow. Okay, continue the
Yes.
story. I'm kind of on pins and needles now.
Oh, please. I love that. And so we've just continued to grow because communities have asked us, like, we have a need for your services in our community. And so it's been great to be able to expand to those communities and be able to offer that level of care there. We began managing. So Nuway Alliance came about because we were starting to get requests to maybe acquire other organizations or manage other organizations. And it just made sense to create like an umbrella organization that is the parent for multiple entities that are related but also different and have their own identities. And so that was really important. So Nuway Alliance came to be in 2018, 2019. And is really the parent organization over Nuway. So the original founding
Mhm.
organizations out there. And then we began managing another nonprofit called Cochrane Recovery Services, which used to be located in Hastings, is now in Maplewood. And we're able to help that organization sustain and now grow.
Mm.
And then we also purchased the Gables. So in 2020, we all remember what happened in
Oh, I don't
2020.
know. Maybe that's the thing.
Something
Yeah.
happened. And so we bought a treatment center in Rochester in 2020. And so we manage that organization. Just last year, just coming up on a year ago, we purchased Aragoni East and West, which are housing support. And so that offers recovery focused housing for men, kind of can be longer term housing for individuals that need that. And then just this last May, we started the Nuway Mental Health Clinic, which is offering a lot of additional mental health support right
Mm.
now for some of our programs as we work on rolling it out to the rest of our programs across the state.
Where is that one located? Or
So Nuway Mental Health Clinic is located in our administration building just in South Minneapolis.
right on Nicollet, right?
Right on Nicollet.
Okay.
And but we do have a satellite site or in our Nuway Duluth Counseling Center as well. So
Wow. What made that next step into the mental health realm? I mean, we all know that they are oh, I was going to say bedfellows, but we won't say
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah.
They're tit and tat.
Intersection. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So I think for a long, long time over my career, when I entered the field of addiction recovery, um, substance use disorder, which is not what we called it, but substance use disorder and mental health conditions were treated completely separately,
Mhm.
and neither shall ever cross. Yet they definitely impact one another.
Mm.
And, maybe on the substance use side, it's like you have to get the substance use under control before you can address the mental health. And the mental health might say, oh, no, you've got to treat the mental health because then the substance use might go away, or because it's used to
Mhm.
manage mental health conditions. And somewhere along the way, people learned more about how the brain functions and the intersectionality of the two, and we started treating them concurrently.
Mhm.
And we have seen through the pandemic in particular,
Yeah.
people not only put off their physical health care, but they also put off their mental health care, their care for their substance use issues, and people generally just became more acute and sicker
Mm.
if they survived. And so we see a number of individuals that come into our care that just really have high acuity with not only their substance use disorder but their mental health disorder. And that results in sometimes people not wanting to stay in services that they need.
Absolutely.
And so, in order to help stabilize, kind of like that housing piece,
Mm.
like you have to have a place to put your head at night to be safe.
Mhm.
You also need to stabilize both a substance use disorder and a mental health condition,
Mm.
probably in order to get to the point where you can do the work. And so we just felt like it was another resource that we needed easily to access
Mhm.
in order to help people maintain um, their treatment stays, to be
Mhm.
quite honest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Really good. I'm really glad to hear that. There's a lot of organizations out there that have co-occurring treatment facilities, but oftentimes you don't really get that mental health when you're there. And so having a specific um, area for that is really exciting. I like that.
Yeah, I think it just it answers and validates the fact that they truly are I say the chicken or the egg or which
Yes.
one it is. It's like, one begets the other begets the one. And if we look at a human, we are all those different parts. And so if we recognize the fact that maybe somebody had a trauma which brought them to the substance, then we have to deal with the trauma and then the substance, or the substance brought on the
The
trauma.
trauma,
I
exactly.
mean, it really is something that has to be looked at. I think they are two separate pieces that intertwine. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that We're neglectful if we don't address both. And I think it's also up to the patient, the client, the individual, whatever
The
label, the
participant, yes.
participant, to direct their care.
Mhm.
And if we don't have the opportunity to offer that in a easy space, it's easier to walk away from that, right? It's already hard enough to address issues around mental health and substance use. So providing easy access is actually key, I think,
Yes.
to helping people feel comfortable and safe in doing so.
Absolutely. Once they've already made that decision to get the treatment that they need, which is a huge decision, right? Sometimes if we make that choice and we don't get the opportunity to go to treatment right away, we might not go to treatment. So we've made that choice and now we're in treatment. I need that mental health, but if I don't have it available right now, like you said, I might just let it go to the wayside and it's not going to get any
And
better.
leave treatment
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
because it's unmanaged.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's such an important part because I think a lot of people think we'll just stop using and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole life that's behind a human that needs to have some unfurling, some peeling away. There's generally an origin. There's
Mhm.
generally a space where somebody's picked up a chemical to make the pain go away or just to just feel better, but they don't even know what they're trying to feel better from. And so if we can say, you know what, maybe there's some things that we need to talk about in cahoots with why you're using your alcohol or your drugs. I mean, it's just absolutely, you both use the term intersection, and I always sort of forget that term, but it really is important.
Mhm.
Wow.
And then you can, what Nuway has done, and I don't know if you're using other peers, but Minnesota Recovery Connection comes in pretty frequently, and we do outreach, and then people have an opportunity to connect with a peer recovery specialist.
So this goes back to some of my time when I worked at Minnesota Recovery Connection. I went into New Way
Yeah.
and talked about Minnesota Recovery Connection.
Wow.
And I loved going in and talking to the clients and sharing about the opportunities at Minnesota Recovery Connection and watching people like put the pieces together and say, oh, like there's a place for me to utilize my experience to help others and be useful.
Mm.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so I love that it's almost like a full circle. So that, MRC still comes into some of our programs and talks about the resources, whether that be resources you need to facilitate some of your own recovery, whether that is resources to help them connect maybe people they know in their lives to something related to recovery. It's just really amazing to
Mhm.
see. So it's a long partnership and collaboration between our organizations that I couldn't be prouder of, and just continue to look forward to that going beyond 2024.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's interesting. I did an outreach with Justin, one of the young men that we were, not Justin McNeil, Justin Fuller Green.
Okay.
And we were at one of the houses just up from the Alano Club. And just for all of you out there in the world who don't know what an Alano Club, it's an AA space. And it's one of the originals in the United States that's taken place.
Mhm.
Longest
And
standing Alano Club in the same space. So I think it's been there since 1942.
Yeah, long
Yeah,
time.
long
Yeah,
time.
2218. There isn't a
Yes.
person in the recovery
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
that doesn't at least know that exists.
Name.
Yep. Yep.
But I remember I went to do an outreach with Justin, and we were down in the basement with a
Yep.
bunch of guys,
Yep.
and I think you stopped in.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, seeing your face there. Maybe
Amy's
not.
usually there.
And so it was just like all these lights just slowly came on. They're like, okay, another company's coming in to talk about their services. And I know that that's not really what they think, but that's kind of what they think sometimes. But then, not that we're that fabulous, even though Minnesota Recovery Connection is. But what was so cool is that after we were done doing our talk, and Justin just talked about his new experience with Minnesota Recovery Connection. He was just an intern at the time, and now he's a full-fledged certified peer recovery specialist. But then after most of the guys left, they're like, this small little group came up and said, can you tell us some more about what you
Mhm.
do? And it was magic. And then a couple of them called Justin. And it was just like, that's when our hearts just grow, like, kind of like the Grinch, we just grow and we say, this is what this opportunity can bring people when they say, oh, I think I want to reach out even further. And that, I love doing outreach. I just absolutely love it.
Gives me tingles. Because that's part of the why for
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
right? It's that opportunity of hope and betterment and seeing the light go on for some people or re-engage. I
Mhm.
think for a lot of people, it's a re-engagement. It's not unusual for someone to maybe have more than one treatment experience, and that's okay. That's okay. Not all things are resolved the first time we address them,
Mm-mm.
right? If you think about just any other um, diabetes, heart disease, like there's a continuum of care, and sometimes we take 2 steps forward and sometimes we take a step backwards, and that's all okay. And so I love that you shared that, and that you've had that experience. It just brings back fond memories for me and some of that engagement. So
Yeah. I was at 3 hours once prior to the pandemic. And I was sitting there, and the room was totally full of people. There was like, a bazillion people in
yes.
there because they could at that time. Now they don't.
Yes.
And I'm scanning the crowd, looking at the crowd. I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. Now all of a sudden off to the right, there's this guy sitting there. He was my mechanic.
Oh,
And he actually almost died in the house kitty corner from me from his alcohol issues. And it was like literally they pulled him out of the house, and he was at Nuway, and he was sitting there in front of me, and his name is Dale. And he just looked at me. He's like, Caddy, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm coming to save you, Dale, along with this beautiful Nuway place. And it was, I could start to cry right now because he was really beginning to make moves and getting better, because he was truly at death's door, found with all the bottles around him, and, one of those real bad cases. And I just realized what a collaboration it is and how miraculous it is that people can come back to life if they get what they need, which is what Nuway can offer, Nuway Alliance can offer, what Minnesota Recovery Connect can offer, but just caring for people, just saying you're human.
Well said.
Just amazing.
Yeah, and sharing our stories just like that. Did he know that you were in recovery prior to seeing him at Nuway?
Yes, yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, because there had been some times that we had been together, and I told him, and it was always kind of a mystery if he had a problem.
Sure.
And then when he was still doing mechanic work, he was not showing up, and I'd like have an appointment with him. He didn't show up, and then one of the owners was like, "Yeah, no, he's got a problem." I'm like, "He's got a problem." So it was interesting.
And then there you were to be able to support.
Oh, it's
it's
small
small world.
kind of, and then he came in and he started volunteering at Minnesota Recovery Connection. So that was like kind of, let's put all the pieces together. Like you said, Monique, it's like this is a continuum of care. If we just keep sort of circling around people and give them the love, the attention, the I see you. And one of the things that I have said many times when I've been in trainings and we talk to people who've been to treatment several times, I look at them and I won't use the bad word that I've used around them, but I'm like, how darn bad do you want recovery that you're going to keep coming back to treatment time after time after time? That to me is not failure. That means you really want it, but something is still going on. And maybe it's that mental health piece. Maybe it's another part of your world that we haven't been able to pay attention to because you're too locked in something. So it just, to me, is like, it's such a great way that we can just help understand people. It's what Erin and I talk about all the time with every guest that we have. And that is, we've just got to wrap love and compassion around people and then see what they can do.
Yeah, and just continuing to understand that it just doesn't end. What I love about Nuway Alliance is that, you have all the pieces. I'm just going to say it real quick before we go to break. You've got the treatment, you've got the mental health, and you've got the housing. And those are 3 key pieces. Those are like the 3 core pieces, right? And so you're doing that. Plus you've got your community partner connections, which is just incredible.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the Walk for Recovery.
When is that?
September
21st.
I'm the one that always says it. I looked at you guys to see it.
And where is it?
The St. Paul Capitol Grounds.
State Capitol
Yes.
Grounds. Yes, sirree, Bob. So when we come back, we will talk about all the beautiful things that are taking place at the Walk for Recovery with Nuway Alliance as our key sponsor for the event. Thank you. We'll be back.
'Cause without it, there's no home. And there's one thing that I've learned through this year of being alone.
La-di-da, la-di-da. Here we come back to Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution with Erin Fitzgerald and Monique
Bourgeois.
I was almost there. I almost
Lovely.
said Beaujolais, which really would have been
Such a beautiful name.
There was a time in my life when I drank a lot of that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I just had this brain
Old
snap.
habits die hard,
They
right?
do,
Like,
they do.
yes.
My apologies, Monique.
No, that's okay. I've
Uh,
been called worse.
Monique, as she said, there aren't many of them, so here she is.
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk about the Walk for Recovery. Nuway Alliance is our key sponsor for that event, and we want to say thank you to them and to Monique because of that alliance that we have, this relationship that we have. It's marvelous. It is taking place September 21st from 10 to 3 at the Minnesota State Capitol Grounds. We are going to have music that Erin is going to tell us about. We're going to have a kid zone that Erin's not going to tell us about because we don't know how many. We have 8 trucks. We have a kid zone, so we've got a slide, and we have something else. I can't remember.
Bouncy house.
Bouncy house and a slide. We've got a little pet zone for people. We've got AFWAC, AFWAC.
Ben Afquack.
Ben Afquac. Okay, so
He's a recovery duck.
he's a recovery.
Yeah, the
duck.
pet zone is a lot of fun. I don't think that people realize that it's set up. It's not just a like petting zoo.
No,
It's different like support animals and
companion-
pets and
companion animals.
equine therapy and stuff with horses. So all sorts of really cool things up there.
Yeah, and then we have many community members, sponsors, tables, information from all different spaces and places that are coming that just present at the walk so that we can all see that there's recovery everywhere in every modality, and even the Department of Corrections is there. You know what? The Department of Corrections, having done trainings, and I'm doing one next week in Stillwater, it's an amazing place because when they begin to wrap their brains around how people who are incarcerated can come out and become better humans, we've made a huge. So anyway, I just sort of want to just toss that all out. So Erin, why don't you tell us the music that's going to be there, and then we're going to toss it to Monique, and she's going to tell us all about the activities.
We've got 3 great bands that will be playing for us, including also a DJ, and then I'll just get to be your MC for the day.
Yeah.
That'll be fun too.
Yeah. So tell us, Monique, what is Nuway Alliance doing at the Walk for Recovery this year?
So we're really excited to introduce a fun activity within the actual Walk for Recovery event. It's called Recovery Discovery, and it is a scavenger hunt that takes place fully within the event. And a number of the sponsors and vendors of the event for MRC have agreed to participate.
Before you go into it,
Yes.
can I say that I am both thrilled and disappointed about this? Just kidding. I had this lovely idea last year to have a scavenger hunt, and it was tacked on my wall for an entire year. And we never got around to doing a scavenger hunt at the walk last year. So I'm absolutely thrilled that you're going to do it.
So I think that's a great example of putting something out in the universe
Yes.
and it coming to fruition. So always be careful of what you put out in the universe. But we did not steal Erin's idea.
No.
It was something that the community relations team at Nuway Alliance did come up with the theme of recovery discovery is where we started.
I
Love it.
And we really wanted to create an activity or a space where people would engage with maybe resources related to recovery that they might not normally engage with or are not aware of. And so, so that's what we're doing. And fingers crossed, I think it'll be super fun. I hope a lot of people choose to participate. It's really easy to participate. You will just stop by the Nuway Alliance booth when you get to the event or anytime during the event, pick up the scavenger hunt board, and then there are 9 squares that you need to visit. If you want to complete the board, you get a stamp at each of those places. You return that completed board to the Nuway Alliance booth, and you get a prize, which is a surprise. So you'll have to participate in order to find out what that
Ooh.
is. And then you'll be entered into a drawing for some additional prizes. So
Wow.
we're really excited. We're hoping people will find it fun and a way to engage that maybe is a little bit different than normal. And not to take away, but we're also doing this at a couple of the other Walk for Recoveries across the state as
Awesome.
well. So
Yeah.
Right.
Recovery Community Network in St. Cloud is going to do this along with Recovery Alliance Duluth. So,
Nice.
so
That's so great because a lot of times people walk around and you see the resources and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. Or, maybe you stop, maybe you don't. But this way people are forced to go meet other places.
Mhm.
I love that.
and
Yeah.
I think that it offers an opportunity to engage the vendors in a different way as
Mhm.
well. So we're really grateful that the vendors and the sponsors that have decided to join us in this are doing it.
Mhm.
We're just really pleased. And again, it takes a village. It takes a
Absolutely.
village to support the recovery community, and so we're going to do that with Recovery Discovery on September 21st.
And how do people find information about Recovery Discovery?
So you can go to the Nuway website, which is Nuway, NUWAY.org. And then under About, there's a page for Recovery Discovery. So it talks a little bit about if you're a participant, how to access the
Mhm.
scavenger hunt. And if you're a vendor, it's closed now for MRC,
Mhm.
but for the 2 other organizations, we have a little bit more time to get some people on board. So if you're a vendor out there and is interested in the Duluth or the St. Cloud, please let us know.
Excellent.
Well, what I think is really fun is that with the Nuway Alliance arms around the state of Minnesota, what you're doing with this scavenger hunt and having that presence, and that is you're really engaging folks. And that I think it's that participation in people's recovery. And I think a lot of people walk by a lot of booths because they're like, I don't want to talk to anybody because
Mhm.
if I talk to somebody, then I might learn something, but I don't know if I'm ready to learn something. I don't what do I do? And I think that's where the magic is that if we begin to have these conversations with new organizations, even if they're not your jam, they might be your best friends or the person in the sober recovery home that you're living in. It's like, hey, I just learned about something. So I really think it's fun that you're doing that kind of thing, that we
Mhm.
can at least, be part of that relationship.
What it makes me think of is I think a lot of people have had this experience where you've never heard of something before, and then once you hear of it, like you find reasons to hear of it again
Mhm.
or to get connected. And so maybe there's a higher meaning to that connection out there for somebody.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Sometimes we have to widen our scope to understand what's in our scope.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really great. So we've also got the Rally Caps baseball game that we
Yeah.
have, and Nuway's presence will be known there.
Yes, we're super excited. Peter Green, our director of cultural diversity, will be throwing out the first pitch. So
Woo!
we're very excited for that.
September 10th at the Twin Stadium, and tickets are available currently. And if you want to buy, you certainly can. $16. It is dollar hot dog night, so you can get all the hot dogs you want for $1. And then we have our gratitude breakfast that Nuway Alliance will certainly be part of.
Absolutely. That's one of the events that I know a lot of our staff really look forward to attending. each year. It's a great way to start the morning, kind of get centered, connect with people in a different way. I think it's also a great way to maybe this year's closing out recovery
Yes,
month.
that's exactly it.
A lot of us will be pretty tired and
Yeah.
exhausted from all the fabulous events going on, supporting recovery and showing that it's real across Minnesota.
Yeah, we're going to close it up on September 30th at Augsburg College. So all this information is available on our website. I want to thank all of you out there in the big world. Join us in supporting our mission through annual membership donors, volunteering at Minnesota Recovery Connection. You can catch all of these shows at minnesotarecovery.org or AM 950.
Thanks for being here, Monique.
Thanks for having me.